TV, alcohol, activities, work, we all escape. But is it controlled? And who are we damaging? If you escape your children, for example, a first-order consequence could be, well, okay, you left. And there's a little confusion about that. And that feels painful. A second-order consequence is a feeling of abandonment. If it lasts a while, it's like I'm abandoned. A third-order consequence could be a lot of relationship damage to that child's life because you're supposed to be a secure parental figure and you're not. Welcome to Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind. This is Corey Shapiro. I'm here to prevent you, hopefully, from making a mistake that you're going to regret maybe for your life. That's the goal of this podcast, to slow you down when you're activated so you come from your wiser self and not from your reactive side. And today we're going to talk about this idea of wanting to flee. Wanting to flee because the pain is too much. And it could be something as simple but is so powerful as when you have children and you just want to escape because things are just unbearable. I'm going to talk about that in this episode. And my message to you is I want you to think about the difference between a break, a restorative break, versus an escape, which is a little bit more permanent and a little bit more damaging. All right, let me talk about some definitions. A restorative break is something short, something planned, something you need. A restorative break could be 2 hours in the afternoon, going to the spa. It could be going to a dance class. An escape is where you abruptly leave, and it's usually for a while, and it causes a lot of damage, especially to your children. And I also want to talk about some definitions: first, second, third ordered consequences. Okay, so an escape, let's say you're feeling so much pressure, you can't take it anymore. It's just like enough. And I'm not devaluing that. I think that's probably that's a real feeling. And we all feel it at one time or the other. And we all escape one way or the other. Okay, TV, alcohol, activities, work, we all escape. But is it controlled? And who are we damaging? So if you escape your children, for example, a first-order consequence could be, well, okay, you left. And there's a little confusion about that. And that feels painful. A second-order consequence is a feeling of abandonment. If it lasts a while, it's like I'm abandoned. A third-order consequence could be a lot of relationship damage to that child's life, that you're delaying their life because you're supposed to be a secure parental figure and you're not. And let me give you a couple of examples of what I see. And let me give you something personal. I do this podcast, I wrote my book because when I was 8 years old, my mom escaped. The pressure was too much for her, so she just left us. We didn't know where she was going, didn't know when she was coming back. And that was very damaging. The reason I became a divorce lawyer. Reason I do this podcast. Fast forward some decades on a different note, but similar, in just the urge. And maybe it's just in our family, my family. I was having a discussion with my niece about when she was in college and graduating what to do. And maybe I said something that bothered her, was a little too, straight talk to her without maybe the empathy she was needing. And she just left. She just left the family gathering. She was so upset. Now, she didn't leave and she texted later in the day. It wasn't so dramatic. But there was a lot of different choices. She could have went to the other room. She could have said, let's stop this conversation. And if I wasn't listening, she could have, went to the other room to stop it. But she didn't have to leave that wonderful family gathering. And I actually flew down for that family gathering. So it was sort of really upsetting. And have a great relationship, so don't worry about that. But these are the things you got to think about. We all have this urge. And let me give you something from the divorce world I've seen. Let's flip it around. Let's say you're trying to be involved. I see this especially with young children. babies, toddlers. And let's say the other parent is very intrusive, very micromanaging of your parenting style. They have a certain defined way they want you to parent this baby. And any second that this baby is away from that parent, they're viewing everything you do negatively. So you bring back the child, nothing you did was right. And who wants to deal with this type of parent, right? So maybe an urge you have is, I don't want to even exercise my parenting time. I don't get that much time as it is. And every time I do exercise my parenting time, they just throw it in my face like I've done something wrong. And I'm just a new parent. I'm doing the best I can. What is their problem? And maybe it would just be better if I don't see my kids so I don't have this pain. Now, if you're thinking that, that's what I want you to bring back to this idea of a restorative break versus an escape. And yeah, that's a hard place to be in with an intrusive, overbearing parent, especially when you have a newborn, a baby, a toddler, especially when it's their first child. They're very sensitive, and maybe they have a lot of anxiety, and they're very worried, and they're projecting that onto you. But your child needs you. Maybe not every day, but they need you. They need, especially as they get older, they want you to have they want to know they have a parent. They have this parent in their life. They don't want to have that hole that's going to hurt them potentially in the future. So let me give you my paraphrase. Strategic breaks prevent breaking points. I want you to take those restorative breaks. I want you to think about, every time I fly, they say always put your face mask on before you take care of your child. That's what I want you to do here. So when you're feeling a little stressed, you're going through these difficult early stages of a divorce, your needs have not been met for a while, you've been intruded upon, I want you to start building in these breaks. And I don't want to hear that you don't have time. You got to make time. Even if it's as simple as a dancing class, as simple as a rowing class, Pilates, whatever it can be. A walk in the park even, whatever it can be. I don't want you to escape. I want you to take breaks. So that's my action plan for you. Can you have some time that you give back to yourself? Divorce is difficult. Dealing with an anxiety, controlling, intrusive spouse over a small young child, that's difficult stuff. And when things don't go the way you want, I appreciate the urge to escape. I really do. It's an easy path out. But if we think about it more creatively, it's not the only option. Not the only option. And your future self, your wiser self, is really going to appreciate if you can come up with a middle ground option. And if I did nothing else on this podcast and get you to think of that, then that's a real win for you and your family and your children in the future. All right, I believe you could do this. I know this is tough stuff, but you can do it. You're on the path. Being on the path is all we can do. Just one step, in front of the other. Just 1% better each week, getting stronger. It's not going to always be, every day is not going to always be better. I don't want you to think, divorce, you start doing these things and it's going to be like, oh, now we're moving forward. It's always going to be successful. That's not how this works. It's going to be more like I tell my clients, it's more like waves. So my straight talk to you, coming from my lawyer's perspective, a lot of the work that's done in divorce is not anything to deal with the law. It's really just to deal with this reactive side of us that is really hard to control sometimes. All right, so good job being on this path. I know you can do this. You're going to get through this. I believe in you. Thanks for listening. I'm Corey Shapiro.
This podcast offers general information only. It cannot replace legal advice. If you need tailored advice, contact an attorney licensed to practice in your area.